least for me, this is just, for me, is you don't tell them the truth. If your brother's a doctor, like an oncologist, and you have some sort of horrible disease, he just tells it to you. Dude, we should go out to lunch because we don't have many days left to go out to lunch. Well, should I go through life? No, it's not going to help you. They just tell you. Your brother's a mechanic. He just lays it on the line, right? You need a new car. He's not trying to sell you anything. And so to me, the computer guy ethic is to tell people the truth about what they need. And the truth is their backup needs in our society are being completely ignored. Like Costa said it yesterday, 99.9% of people don't do backup right. This is a site for that 1/100th of a percent that are close enough to the edge, teetering on the edge of like Neo in the Matrix. You know what? I think I get it. I think there's something out there. There's this white rabbit I want to follow. So in a sense, what my disclaimer says, if you're like most people about backup, save yourself a lot of time and navigate away from here, because this is not a place you're going to be happy. The thing that we sell at Barnyard Backup is we don't actually even make backup software. Okay? We help you use other people's backup solutions. Because most backup solutions, I don't have all of them, miss the one thing that's important, which is someone watching over your backup to make sure it's backed up. So you go to a website, whether it's Mozy or Carbonite or Veritas Backup Exec, and they're like, it's $900 or it's $5.99 a month, $5.99, and they're like, and click here and you'll get a backup solution. But the truth is, no one's watching over to see, is all your data backed up? Are you going off course? Has things changed since you've moved to Vista? No one's watching over. It's not really a backup solution. It's like the medical equivalent of being sold a stethoscope and telling you you have a doctor. It's the doctor behind the x-ray or the stethoscope that brings all the value. And for backup tools, it's the computer guy who's watching over your data to make sure it's got a need. The other thing that's really countercultural that I believe strongly is that backup's the worst possible word for what we do with backup. It's not a backup copy of our data that we're storing on tape. It's the original. Our file server is the backup. The original is on your tape. When push comes to shove and your house burns down, someone steals your computer, you lose your laptop in an airport, some bad thing happens because someone's disgruntled or just plain disk failure, where you go is to your backup. But that backup isn't really the backup, that's the original copy. It's like the bookstore. When they make a copy of the Mona Lisa and they sell it to you, or the Declaration of Independence, they call it the backup. But where do you go to get that backup? The original. And we in our society are confused about the original and the backup when it comes to data. And what Barnyard Backup's about, we chose not to go as far as to call it Barnyard Originals because it confuses people, but when we think of backup, we're thinking of preserving a pristine, original copy of your data in case something happens. And so to me, that's the truth that I want to put out there is I think backup costs a lot of money. It's difficult to do. So basically what the pitch for this site is first of all, 99 out of 100 people are here at the wrong site. B is the amount of money we're going to charge you or need to charge you to do a good job on your backup is an unknown variable, because it depends upon how much data you have, who's the contact person you have, whether that tape drive works or not. Because, for instance, if your backup software device stops being right for you, it costs a lot of energy to get it back on track. The price changes. People don't like that. That's not something people want to subscribe to. The other thing is that there's no guarantees in backup. So, you end up being that 1%. You're like, I'm buying, I'm going to pay you the money. Let's just do it. But you're guaranteeing me that I'm going to be able to get my data back, right? No, not at all. It's always a miracle when you're able to restore. Okay? It's always an amazing miracle when restore works. Okay? And all we're doing is helping you to have the statistically highest probability that you can restore. But there's always a chance. By left to your own devices with no computer guy and just a regular backup solution, most people think it's 1 in 2. 50% of the time your restore won't work. You know, the more you work with the right person on backup, the greater you can get into numbers like 1 in 10,000. You know, if you have a backup where you do it 3 different ways, you have a regular backup software like your tape, you have a disk backup that you do an occasional snapshot, and an online backup, you know, over a 3 or 4 year period, maybe there's a small couple-day window when you wouldn't be able to restore that data. So, you know, in there, maybe we're in the 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000 numbers, and that's what we want to help people get to. But most people don't want to hear, you know, I'm paying a lot of money for something that I thought I had in the first place. But I guess the important thing is to buy in to the fact that you didn't really have it. One of the things that's nice about calling it Barnyard Backup is we can incorporate a lot of philosophies. So for instance, people always say to me, do I need to back up all my data? If you're a farmer, do you keep some of your animals outside the pen? You know, maybe if they're chickens, but in general, all the data goes in the pen. You back up all of your data. You know,
That's good.
does that
That's
give you?
great. You know, that's the tenor. You know, that's the connection that I think you're looking for.
Right, and so to me, the reason I did this site was to say, you know what, I'm just going to put out there the ugly truth about mortgage lending. Do you know what I mean? The ugly truth is like, dude, you shouldn't be getting the credit card in the first place. They're not charging enough interest for the house. Do you know what I mean? And society's going to collapse if you do this. You know, it's like, but no one wants to say that. Do you know what I mean? And the truth about backup is that it's broken. Not just backup, but in our society, we've lost track of how to manage our stories. We've lost track how to manage our data. No one knows how to archive. You know, if you want to save your pictures for the next generation, where do you save them? You know, Flickr's not going to do it. You know, if Flickr goes out of business, then your pictures didn't get saved. But if Flickr survives, well, maybe Flickr's the right solution. But if you had a goal where I want to save my pictures for the next generation, that's a tough thing. But that's what Barnyard Backup's about for me, is preserving your data, saving your stories. And that's